this is Miss Moriarty, and I'm here to discuss with us topic 8.5, which is all about the phenomenon known as eutrophication. Now, eutrophication is a very popular topic in AP Environmental Science. A part of the reason why we see eutrophication occur to freshwater or even aquatic ecosystems is due to the following nutrients, right? Nitrogen as well as phosphorus. Now, the reason why nitrogen and phosphorus can create eutrophication is because thinking back to Unit 1, Unit 2, these are limiting nutrients for the plants, right? They're ones that they can't readily find and be able to change them into forms that they can use. And so, extra inputs of those then nutrients are going to cause excess nutrients in waterways, which is going to create a algal bloom. So you can see in the picture here, an algal bloom is when we see a green film of algae covering the surface of the water. A part of the reason why that is bad, you can see that no light can actually penetrate through, especially to the bottom floor of our lake or body of water. It's going to kill any of the plants that fall below that surface since they can't capture any sunlight and perform photosynthesis. Over time, what we'll eventually see is that then algae will compete for then resources. Unfortunately, over time, those resources will then deplete, and we're going to see a then die off of all of that algae. That's where then bacteria found in that ecosystem help to break down that dead algae, but in doing so, they're going to use the oxygen found in the water. And the reason is to break down then that said algae. That is through the process known as decomposition, which is an aerobic process, which is going to require oxygen. So lower oxygen levels or dissolved oxygen found in the water over time may actually suffocate aquatic animals, especially fish. And we're going to wind up seeing that the bacteria is going to use up majority of the oxygen found in that then lake. And what we're going to then find is even more dead organisms, only further increasing the amounts of bacteria and depleting the then oxygen found in that waterway. And so we can actually call this a positive feedback loop because we can see the system of this ecosystem being pushed to one extreme, right? Less O2 is going to create more dead organisms, more bacterial decomposition, and even less oxygen over time. Now, eutrophication can be a natural process, but most oftentimes it is driven by some sort of anthropogenic or man made effect. And this is what we call then cultural eutrophication. So, this is going to be nitrogen and phosphorus nutrients typically found due to synthetic fertilizers, maybe even discharge from a sewage treatment plant that contains human waste and phosphates from your soaps and detergents. This might also come from maybe a manure lagoon found at a CAFO, which is where we know they store their feces. We know it can also come from synthetic fertilizer from an agricultural field or maybe even your neighbor's lawn. Now, not all lakes obviously remain eutrophic over time. They can bounce back, but depending upon several other abiotic conditions, that may take an incredibly long time to occur. Now, waterways that are not eutrophic, ones that actually lack low nutrients and nitrogen and phosphorus, usually have a stable algae population, high in dissolved oxygen, tend to be what's called oligotrophic. Um, Now, aquatic ecosystems, however, can naturally undergo succession, and we can actually see that occurring when we do have eutrophic lakes, since the sediment and the organic matter can actually begin to build on the bottom or benthic zone, leading to even higher nutrient levels, and over time, maybe that eutrophic lake winds up shifting. Now, not only can the eutrophication process occur in a freshwater ecosystem, it can also be created in saltwater ecosystems. We know that all aquatic life is going to require DO, and as the DO decreases, we know it's going to be able to support fewer species. The most classic Example of this occurring is in the Gulf of Mexico. We've created oceanic dead zones in that area due to low oxygen levels because of the increased level of nutrients and increased amounts of decomposition occurring by microbes. Now, another tool that scientists can use, and this is actually exactly what we're doing in Life in the James right now, um, is to be able to establish where along this waterway we might see the worst water quality versus the best water quality, and how might that affect the dissolved oxygen. So here we can actually use what's called an oxygen sag curve, which is a plotting of points for the dissolved oxygen levels versus what's called the biological oxygen demand. Now, BOD in its definition is bacteria as well as other computer decomposers found in the water, is their ability to need oxygen to then break down organic matter. The dissolved oxygen is just the available amount of oxygen that'd be used by those decomposers or other organisms. So, in following the oxygen sag curve, we can see that in a clean zone in a freshwater ecosystem, we have a high amount of DO versus a very low demand since we have so much supply. Now, in this body of water, we can see over time, here might be a source of organic pollution, maybe it's a sewage pipe, storm drain, or so on. And what that's going to create is the decomposition zone. So now we can start to see a lot more microbes are going to then be breaking down that organic matter. BOD is going to skyrocket, and as a result, the dissolved oxygen level will decline. Now, moving further down that point, we get to what's called the septic zone. This is now the worst zone. The DO is the absolute lowest. Most marine life can't even live in this area. And what we'll find in Life on the James is only very specific types of macroinvertebrates will live in this type of area, which usually tells us that this is the septic zone. Now, as we move farther down, or over time, you can start to see the recovery zone. So now demand and the number of microbes is going to decrease, which then means DO is going to increase until we finally get back to what's called the clean zone. All right, everyone, that is it for our discussion on 8.5 on eutrophication. Tomorrow, we're going to continue with our Life on the James activity and discuss how DO, BOD, and eutrophication all relate.